Now, this week, the 10 individuals who were criminally charged in a French court for cyberbullying Brigitte Macron, the First Lady of France, were all found guilty. Their false claims included the degrading conspiracy theory that Brigitte Macron was born a man and insinuated the statutory rape of her husband, Emmanuel Macron, the President of France. Now, I couldn't find pictures of all 10 defendants, but here's 3 of them. Now, Candace Owens wasn't a defendant only because she doesn't live in France, but the guilty verdicts directly impact the civil case for defamation filed against Owens in the state of Delaware by Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron, because Candace Owens' name was mentioned repeatedly during the criminal trial in France. Now, several of the defendants cited Owens as the source of the false information that they were convicted of publishing on X. Now, that being a conspiracy theory asserting that Brigitte Macron was born a man named Jean-Michel Trogneux, who is Brigitte Macron's brother, okay? Now, there they are, pictured together. Jean-Michel is Brigitte's brother. Also, here, there they are again, pictured together. They are not the same person. Now, a number of defendants in the criminal case told the court that they learned about the conspiracy theory from the U.S. influencer Candace Owens and from social media users who had shared her content. Now, Owens has already reacted to the French court's verdict by doubling down on her conspiracy theories. Now, here she tweets, "Consider the fact that this man statutorily raped a student and is today securing convictions for cyberbullying against people for discussing his dark past." And that's just like Owens, okay? She doesn't want to give an inch, but she's not fooling anyone, because she goes on to say, "It is my honest-to-God belief that Jean-Michel Trogneux was involved in some really sinister stuff during his military years, which made his transition a requirement." So she's saying she believes the transgender conspiracy theory, honest to God. And yet Owens doesn't volunteer to take a polygraph. Why is that? The 10 convicted cyberbullies, just like Owens, alleged that they were only speaking the truth. But then they were criminally charged, at which point they changed their story. Then they claimed they were just joking or engaging in satire. Now, is that a surprise? Anyone surprised? Now, I've heard some podcasters talking about the guilty verdicts in France, and they said, well, that verdict could never happen in America because cyberbullying isn't a crime here. Isn't it? Now, there are numerous state and federal laws against harassment, which is what happens to the targets of conspiracy theories. They become targets of harassment, which is what the conspiracy theorists intend to happen. Now, the criminal court in France focused specifically on harassment of Madame Macron and the intent to cause harm. So yes, there it is, intent. Because initially these defendants claimed they were only speaking the truth, but the French court refused to be gaslighted. And what about freedom of speech? Now, the 10 cyberbully convicts tried to hide behind freedom of expression, but it didn't help them. And Owens is claiming freedom of expression, to no one's surprise. Now, here she tweets, "This is the entire purpose of the lawsuit against me. Independent media has made it a struggle for the deep state to stop the public from learning about the evil they partake in. They now want speech restricted in the United States because we are the last stand against them." But Owens is wrong about speech restrictions in the USA. Not every type of speech is protected here. For example, threats. Now, if you make a threat against someone, that's speech, and it's not protected. You can be criminally convicted for making threats. And what about extortion? What about intimidation? Those are crimes, even if they only involve spoken extortion or spoken intimidation. Now, in some states, you can be criminally charged for defamation. A key factor is whether you say you're giving an opinion or claim to be stating a fact. Owens says she's stating facts about Brigitte Macron. Now, let's look at this tweet again. "Consider the fact that this man statutorily raped a student, etc." Because Owens wouldn't make any money at all if she said, "In my opinion, she's a man. In my opinion, she's committing incest." Now, incest is one of the degrading, false, and defamatory statements she's made about the Macrons. So Owens can double down, but she's just earning money for Brigitte Macron at this point. She'll have to fork it over when the defamation case goes to verdict. Now, among the defendants convicted of criminal harassment in France was Delphine Jaguz. Now, I mentioned in an earlier video, she's a self-proclaimed psychic who's already running from a civil judgment against her for slander against Brigitte Macron. Now, this defendant appealed the civil judgment by claiming she had acted out of stupidity rather than malice, and the appeals court overturned the verdict on that basis. But Madame Macron is asking France's highest court to reinstate the verdict, and it probably will be, especially now that the criminal court found that Delphine Jaguz had the intent to cause harm to the First Lady of France. Now, all the defendants were found to have intent to cause harm, and the judges determined that many defendants were aware that the claims were false, yet shared them repeatedly. Now, of the 10 defendants, 8 received suspended prison sentences, which means they won't go to jail, but will find it tough to find a job or keep a job. Now, one individual did receive 6 months in prison, and one of them apologized for his conduct, so he didn't get any type of prison sentence, but he was convicted, and so he'll have to take cyberbullying awareness classes and pay damages to Madame Macron, like all the rest. Now, the damages in criminal cases typically amount to just restitution, so it's a much smaller amount than Madame Macron can expect to win in the civil case. Now, the transcript of the French trial and the court's findings of fact can be introduced as evidence in the defamation case against Owens in Delaware. That's the civil case. Now, the court documents from the French criminal case show the intercontinental reach of Owens's podcast, and it's not just the 10 cyberbullies. Now, there's an ongoing criminal investigation in France regarding 2 depraved cyberbullies who hacked Madame Macron's tax website and modified her personal information, changing the gender from female to male. I mean, that's the type of ongoing degrading harassment caused by Owens's conspiracy mongering. I predict that the verdict for Madame Macron in her civil defamation case against Owens will be big. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.